in the quaint hamlet of Milton Combe, cradled by the rolling hills of West Devon and the whispering waters of the River Tarvey. The Hood of Thoughted Inn has stood as a beacon of warmth since the 1500s, a refuge for weary travellers and locals alike. Its weathered beams and flagstone floors hold centuries of laughter and sorrow. But it is the inspectoral residents who weave its most enduring tale. Abe Beer, a jovial landlord whose spirit lingers in the taproom, and a phantom cavalier, a dashing royalist whose ghostly hand rings the service bell in search of Abe. Yet there came a night in 1985 when these two ghosts, typically benign, stirred the inn into a reckoning that would etch their presence into Milton Combe's lore forever. A.B. Beer's story begins in the 1820s, a time when the inn was the heart of the hamlet's social life. Abe, a stout man with a booming laugh and a knack for storytelling, ran the Hood of Thoughted with a generous hand, pouring pints of cider and ale that warmed the coldest Dartmoor nights. His death in 1827, a sudden fever that struck like a thief in the night, left the village in mourning. His body laid to rest in the churchyard at Buckland Monacorum. But Abe's spirit refused to depart, tethered to the taproom where he'd spent his happiest days. Patrons soon noticed his presence, the scent of pipe smoke where none burned, the clink of a tankard on the bar after hours, or a fleeting glimpse of his broad figure by the hearth, polishing a phantom mug. Abe's ghost was a comfort, a guardian of the inn spirit, his laughter a soft echo in the rafters on quiet nights. The phantom cavalier, Captain Edmund Fairchild, hailed from a darker chapter, the English Civil War of the 1640s. A royalist officer, Fairchild frequented the inn as a safe haven during his covert missions in 1644. His plumed hat and scarlet sash a splash of colour against the inn's dark wood. Known for his charm and fierce loyalty to King Charles I, he rallied support among local gentry, toasting to victory with stolen claret. But betrayal cut his life short. An informant's tip led parliamentarian scouts to ambush him on the road to Tavistock, leaving his body broken in a ditch, his grave unmarked by the Tavis edge. His spirit returned to the inn, unable to rest, and made itself known through the faint jangle of spurs in the upper rooms or the occasional ring of the old service bell by the borough brass relic from centuries past, its chime a ghostly plea for service or remembrance. For over a century, Abe and the Cavalier coexisted peacefully, their hauntings gentle, Abe tending his unseen bar, Fairchild calling for ale in the dead of night. Landlords came to accept them as part of the inn's charm, leaving a pint for Abe by the hearth or a dram of claret for the Cavalier on the bar. But in the autumn of 1985, a new landlord arrived, one whose disregard for tradition would awaken a deeper unrest in the inspectoral residents. Thomas Harrowell, a brash outsider from Plymouth, bought the Hood of Thoughted Inn with plans to modernize it. He scoffed at the ghost stories, dismissing them as a rustic nonsense meant to fleece tourists. He stripped the bar of its old charm, replacing the oak counter with polished steel, ripping out the flagstone floor for linoleum, and tossing the service bell into a storeroom, declaring it clutter. The regulars grumbled, sensing the inn's soul slipping away. But Thomas cared little for their unease, or for the faint protests of Abe's spirit, who rattled glasses in the night, or the Cavalier whose spurs echoed louder in the corridors. On a stormy Halloween night in 1985, with rain lashing the windows and the Tarvey swollen with floodwater, the inn's ghosts made their displeasure known. The evening had been quiet. Thomas had driven away many regulars with his changes, and he sat alone in the tap room, counting the till when the air turned cold as a crypt. The electric lights flickered, then dimmed, casting the room in a murky glow. From the storeroom came a sharp, insistent chime, the service bell untouched for months, ringing with a ferocity that shook the walls. Thomas froze, his bravado faltering as the scent of pipe smoke filled the air, thick and acrid, followed by the faint jangle of spurs descending the stairs. The door to the bar swung open, though no wind blew, and two figures materialized in the half-light. Abe Beer stood by the hearth, his ruddy face etched with sorrow rather than mirth, his apron stained as if fresh from a night's work. Beside him was Captain Edmund Fairchild, his plumed hat tilted low, his scarlet sash vivid against the gloom, a rapier glinting at his side. Neither spoke, but their presence weighed heavy, a silent rebuke for the desecration of their sanctuary. Thomas stumbled back, knocking over a chair, as the service bell rang again, its chime now a mournful dirge that seemed to pull at his very soul. Abe's ghost moved first, gliding to the bar where the steel counter gleamed under the flickering lights. With a sweep of his unseen hand, a stack of pint glasses toppled, shattering on the linoleum with a sound like breaking bones. The cavalier followed, his spurs clinking faintly, and stood where the service bell once hung, his single visible eye, a piercing blue, fixed on Thomas. The bell's chime echoed again, though it remained in the storeroom, and Thomas felt a chill crawl up his spine, as if the ghosts demanded their due. A pint for Abe, a claret for Fairchild, a return to the traditions that honored their memory. For hours, the inn trembled with their unrest. Tankards rolled across the bar unbidden, the hearth flared with flames that cast no heat, and the air filled with whispers, laughter too sorrowful to be Abe's oaths, too bitter to be Fairchild's. Thomas, pale and trembling, barricaded himself behind the bar, muttering apologies into the dark, promising to restore the inn if they'd spare him. At last, as dawn broke over the Tarvey Valley, the ghosts relented. Abe vanished with a final chuckle, softer now, as if appeased. Fairchild gave a curt nod, his spurs jangling one last time before he faded into the shadows. The service bell fell silent, its chime replaced by the patter of rain on the roof. Thomas Harrowell kept his promise, mostly. The steel counter was torn out, replaced with oak. The linoleum peeled away to reveal the flagstones beneath, and the service bell was reinstated, polished and hung with care. He never spoke of that night, but the regulars noticed a change, a newfound respect for the inn's history. A pint left by the hearth each evening, a bottle of claret kept behind the bar. The ghosts returned to their gentle ways, Abe's pipe smoke a faint comfort, Fairchild's bell ringing only rarely, a reminder rather than a demand. Today, the hood have thwarted and thrives in Milton Combe, its ghosts as much a part of its charm as its cask ales and roaring fire. On quiet nights, when the wind sighs through the valley, patrons might hear the faint chime of the service bell or catch a whiff of pipe smoke, and they raise a glass to Abe, Beer, and Captain Fairchild, two spirits who, in 1985, taught a careless landlord the cost of forgetting the past, ensuring their legacy endures in the amber glow of the town. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, like, follow, subscribe, and comment below.